Welcome to Bringing Joy to the Classroom. So we had a typical non-joyous moment where I had some tech issues that could have brought down the whole presentation. So thank you for your patience. First of all, there are so many more people here than I expected. So materials will need to be shared. So just know that right from the beginning. I am really, really thrilled to be here. And I want to talk about, just for a minute, where my idea for this presentation came from. Last year, I was approached by someone in the district and asked me if they could come videotape something cool that was going on in the science classroom. That was in September. So I ignored them for months and said, yeah. She said, just the next time, give me a few days heads up. I will be totally flexible. And I was really terrified to do it. And I finally, the year was coming to a close, and I thought, one of the last things that the kids do is engineering roller coasters. And I thought, that really does it for the coolness factor. But I was still really concerned about it. And I had to just kind of, last year I did a presentation here about releasing responsibility. And I thought, this is where I have to put my money where my mouth is and just release and let whatever happens happen. And I have to tell you, if you have the opportunity to be videotaped, do it. Because I must have watched the video 100 times because I got so much from it. Because I kept looking at it through all different kinds of lenses in terms of what was going on here? Why did this work? Why was this an issue? So when I was asked to come back and present, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it because I couldn't think of what I was going to do. And I'm going to ask, Ashley's my tech backup who works with me, and I'm going to bring you to our next slide. I love this slide. So can everybody read this? It's why I teach. That was my title. In the end, we will conserve only what we love love only what we understand, and we'll understand only what we are taught. So I was at a retreat, and that was on the wall. And this was sometime, I don't know, the end of last year. And there was something about that that really impacted me, and I just felt like I had to think about it. And a little while ago, I had the opportunity to go and listen to my daughter's boyfriend, who is a professor at Georgetown University, and he is a climate change expert. He's passionate about climate change. Me, not so much. I don't know a whole lot about it. So, I thought, nice weather in October, okie doke, I'll take it. And I went to watch him speak, and it was really transformative for me because all of a sudden I started to understand through his teaching. And I have thought about it a lot, and I completely apply it to what goes on in my classroom. But in order to get them to understand, I have to get them to pay attention. I have to get them to be thoughtful. So that's kind of what I built this workshop on. How can we get them to pay attention? How can we get them to be thoughtful? How can we get them to have a blast and therefore want to do it, want to take risks? So you're going to be watching a couple of videos. One is made by the district, so the quality is great. The other is made by me on my cell phone, so the quality not so much. But there are certain things that I want you to be looking for as you watch. One was my last year's class. The other was my this year's class. And it was very spontaneous with the second video that I just took out my cell phone because I thought, ooh, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. So we're going to start out with video number 1. This is the one we had technical problems with, so please. And as you're watching it, I want you to be paying attention to why are they focused? Why are they excited? Could you just, oh, you've got it. She's so good. Why are they excited? What are the things that you're noticing in the video that are creating such joy and excitement? And then I'm going to ask you to reflect. My name is Judy Higgins, and I teach science at the Leahy School, and this is a 5th grade class. Today the students will be acting as engineers. They are designing and building roller coasters, learning about forces and focusing on forces. For example, they learned about gravity, how gravity is pulling all things towards Earth. They've learned about potential energy and kinetic energy, and one of the big learnings that they've really done a great job with struggling to understand is that as something goes up, it is actually storing potential gravitational energy, and then it's going to release that, turning into kinetic energy to put it down the hill. Their criteria is that their roller coaster has to, one, be safe. So they're using marbles, and those represent the passengers in the cars. So you know that's the goal, that it cannot fall off the track. And secondly, their roller coaster must contain 2 loop-the-loops. So they learned about centripetal force that will keep it going around the loop. And then they also have a sharp turn where they'll be kind of dealing with inertia. The marble will continue in one direction unless they provide an outside force to make it create that sharp turn. It's incredible for so many reasons. One, a lot of these kids are English learners, so they do the reading and they work together on a graphic organizer. They learn the words, they learn the vocabulary, they can talk about what those vocabulary words mean, but then to put it in action and to actually see. They also have great conversations about when the hill is not steep enough. It does not have enough kinetic energy to get it down and around the loop-the-loops. I love this curriculum, and I love teaching science because the students are incredibly motivated to do the reading, to do the graphic organizer, to do the work that they have to do in order to get to the investigation, because that's what engineering is all about. You're getting a problem, how are you going to solve it? What you're about to see is they're putting their diagrams into action and seeing the successes and some of the struggles that they'll have.
My name is Leahy.
My name is Danaya.
My name is Ladies.
My name is Liz Marie.
And this is the Roller Coaster Project.
What we're doing right now, we're making like a roller coaster with exactly 2 materials, 10 foams, like what we use for our roller coaster, and 2 dowels.
With all the planning and other forces that we're trying to do.
So we had to like answer questions on like what kind of forces we need to use. So like our passengers, which is our marbles, if it falls off, we have to figure out why it's falling off. If it doesn't have enough force, or the friction is not making sure it doesn't slow down like after a loop-the-loop.
The adjustments that we're doing is we're trying to fix a crack that's here, because if we have that there, the marble won't be able to go over the loop-the-loop. It's gonna be stopped by the crack, and it's gonna slow it down. What was exciting is how we can use a lot of force to make a roller coaster so the marble can go through like a real roller coaster. And we might add a hill, and they'll have enough force to go over another loop-the-loop. I only thought roller coasters were fun, but then when we learned about this, I was like, how many forces do you need to build a roller coaster?
It goes down and then it goes to the loops.
And what force is getting it through the loop-the-loops?
Kinetic energy.
What else? What's
And friction. Oh, and central.
Who can say that?
Central force.
Yes, excellent. Centripetal force will keep it going around the loop-the-loops.
My name is Dameli, and
My name is Sonia.
working and like building the project. Like it's really hard to do it.
We built this roller coaster out of our minds. These are the passengers, and we can't let them fall off the track so they can enjoy the ride.
So for your next, let's see, I'm going to get my helpers here. We need flip charts and markers. Now, again, I apologize for, we're going to have to do a lot of sharing of materials. Eileen's going to put a flip chart on each table. Would you mind just giving a marker to each table for as many as you have? And when we run out of markers, we're just going to have to do pens. And what I would like you to do is to think about, what was it that you saw that explained the excitement? And I think one of the key things, because there was so much that I didn't see that was going on, because the videographer was doing her thing and I was just kind of moving from group to group. That student who said, you know, that giddiness and this, who knows, there was so many forces. She was so delighted by that, and I thought, that's amazing to see that kind of excitement about forces. So what is it that is generating that kind of interest and perseverance? Because some of those groups, those marbles fell off 100 times, and they would continue. Put the marble back on, look at it, see what they thought. So if you could take a minute, talk in your groups, and then, thank you so much, guys, and then just go to a chart and list what are some of the components that you think added to that excitement. And then we're going to see another video, and we're going to do a couple of readings as well. So I'm going to give about 6 minutes, talk in your table groups, go to the flip charts, write with whatever markers we have. Thank you, guys. I don't know what I would do without you. So last year, it was literally a third of this size, and when they told me they wanted to live stream it, and
this is amazing.
So
they're so into people. I'm seeing the students. I'm like, oh my god! But like, it's awesome.
Thank you for being here. I'm so relieved,
so
because
excited.
this is always the scariest thing. What did I say?
God,
6 minutes.
And you're doing amazing.
We thank you.
So into it.
I'm so waiting. This is a book that you have to buy. I'm going to do, this guy should pay me, because every talk I ever do, you're going to be doing some readings from this. Best book I ever had as a teacher. You can borrow it.
Yes, please.
You'll be doing 2 readings from it.
I am.
And everyone.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm like,
not you.
my goodness.
And you will be tested.
But I would do it.
I know you would. Look at you guys.
Yeah.
Hands on, out of seat. Yeah, out of seat is big. Yeah.
It was a physical project rather than an oral writing project.
Connecting to what they learned.
Yeah, hands on. Yep.
And they wanted to be successful. Like they had that drive to be successful. Yeah, like they wanted to see it work.
And they also, it was so funny, they were so connected to, like they would say this, like, guys, these marbles fell off, these are people who are going to die. And
So they had a sense of like that responsibility.
Yes.
And they worked with like the one that had trouble, like she wanted to make it work.
Responsibility to the real world connection, I guess.
Yep. Those are all the things that like we're always taught, you know, how to be a teacher, but this was so transformative to me, being able to like sit and like watch that video and go, oh my gosh. And this was a really struggly classroom. It was a lot of behavior problems.
You see the extra staff in here.
The what?
The extra staff people in
So I'm the special ed teacher, and last year I was able to go in, which was great.
Which was
It
a
fantastic.
blast.
Yeah. And it was fun for me. And one of the kids
Yeah.
in there, one of the most successful was one of my students. So
Was Sony.
really-
Sony, that was crazy.
Yeah.
We would know that.
No, exactly, exactly. This year I don't get to go in, but my paraprofessional does.
Age appropriate, I would say it was age appropriate.
Oh, where did you see that?
Where do we, when
No,
the
like-
children were talking to one another, they felt respected and safe, and even talking to you,
Yeah.
that they were able
Yeah.
to do that. And then the prior knowledge, because we teach it in kindergarten, so we saw that when we do the ramps in kindergarten, it builds upon.
Which is the coolest thing about KnowAtom,
Right.
because you're actually
And I don't think,
connecting
like,
those.
I did the champs thing before where we were able to do the walks, and that was where I kind of bought into the program. because
Me too.
I saw it,
Me
and
too.
I saw that it built upon it, and that what I was doing, even though it was rigorous, was working. So
The first year that I did it, I saw a first grade class. I teach fifth grade, and there was so much of, we can't do this, it's too hard. I saw a first grade class. What do you teach, kindergarten? There's a first grade class where they were building dams, and I can't remember which school it was.
And then the kids came and they did the panel.
Yes, yes. I was dazzled. I was sitting there with these two little girls, and they, first of all, I would ask a question, and they would sort of like laugh at me, like, oh my gosh, this woman. Yes, exactly. I said something, they were talking about how we have to make a dam that's effective. And I said, well, what happens if it's not effective? And they both laughed and they go, well, it would be ineffective. I died. And it was, yes, and then that was the culmination. And I thought, and I've said so often when my school brought the curriculum down each grade, and I said, guys, I have to tell you this, these first grade kids, and it was as free as my fifth grade classroom. The teacher was like walking around, sitting on tables, but she was so uninvolved with, and I think that was really transformative to me.
Wouldn't they not concern? Because that may help us understand more what we missed.
All righty, I'm going to bring you on back in 3 and 2 and 1. So as I was walking around, I don't know how we are going to do this in the time that we have. There were so many great flip charts, and there were so many things that I've thought of, but there were a couple of things that I thought, oh, I didn't notice that. So if we could just, quickly pop around to each table that would like to address their flip chart and to think, what is it that you're seeing? Because we're going to be connecting these to the next video that you see, and then you're going to be doing 2 quick pieces of reading about the brain and how the brain works. So we want to just sort of wrap this all up together so we can think about what are the components that we can think about? What are the components that we have some control over when we are thinking about our lessons? So you want to start at this table, just a quick share out of some highlights.
Sure. I think that the fact that it was hands-on and they were all out of their seats and having fun, they were taking ownership of their learning, working in groups. Also the high interest, I mean, kids love roller coasters.
Yep.
Just to put down something else that's different. That it was friendly competition or challenge, so there was no risk involved, and that they were excited to try the materials after they learned the vocabulary, done all the reading, and then that's, the fun.
The fun part. When you say ownership of learning, what did you see that led you to think about their owning their learning?
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, you could see that the kids were engaged and they could use the vocabulary words that you had, discussed in class from their reading and such. So they definitely had some excitement and background knowledge of different things that they had. So it was kind of cool.
Good. How about this table?
Since anything different, hands-on. Yeah, it was student-driven. There was a lot of laughter, even with mistakes. So again, they weren't worried about failing. They were just trying again. They had enough background knowledge where they felt good about what they were doing, because it was kind of like the grand finale.
I think one of the important things that you said there was about the mistakes, which is so key. That, and I guess that's one of the things that we'll want to explore. How do we create that? How do we get that, that there's no, it's not a big deal to make a mistake?
I thought the expression on your face as the teacher was a really big deal because you were smiling, and even if you weren't smiling, you were like really engaged. And you were animated, and that was huge for all those things because then they feel like they can make mistakes and you're just going to be same old person. Not old, same person. It was encouraging.
And I think that was one of the things for, again, for me as a teacher last year doing the release of responsibility workshop, that was so important for me to figure that out, that I can make mistakes too. This lesson doesn't have to be perfect, and we can learn from failure too. Next table back there.
We like the excitement over success. You know, you could see that a lot. And also, you know, there was really, like you said, no fear of failure. If they did fail, you know, they knew that they could go back and try to fix it. You know, it wasn't, you know, you got it wrong. There was no one right answer.
Yes.
And it was, you know, very motivating for them. Also a real life connection. And this is also a great opportunity for the shy, tough kids to be engaged.
I think one of the things that those two students, and Eileen sort of knows this, the two, Sony and, who was Sony working with? There were two, as a boy and a girl, and they really did not like each other. And it was one of those things where, you know what? You're it, you know, you're the team. And it was fascinating. This is Eileen, who worked with me last year in my classroom. And watching them, they were the most successful. And watching them kind of support each other was really amazing to me. Yeah, those are cool. Anything else?
That's about it. Real life connection, collaboration.
Collaboration. How about this front table up here?
We really appreciated how it allowed for a lot of creativity because you could make the roller coaster really however you wanted.
Yep.
But within those. I think that if you give that they enjoy something that is connected to real life, that they may have been on a roller coaster before, like how does this really work? It's not just some lofty thing that they've never thought about or talked about before or seen. And also the fact that they were really taught the concepts first and really understood the different types of forces, the different other concepts, so that when they were able to actually make it successful, they knew like, oh, I knew all of this stuff. I think that's why they were so excited.
Yeah.
They really got it before they did them.
We're going to be doing a reading later that sort of talks about that, that's a little bit intriguing, that sort of flips that a little bit, sort of talking about give them the big stuff before the details. And I've thought a lot about that reading with regard to this video. So it's kind of an interesting way of thinking about that slightly differently. Are there any other share outs? Because I don't want to run out of time, and I always run out of time. So is any other table groups that I didn't get to?
Quick question, because I wondered, had they become aware of the engineering design process before this exercise?
Yes, great question. Yes, we had done other engineering designs. I have big posters on the wall that takes them through scientific method, engineering design, so they become very familiar with that. So they understand that at a pretty good level. Why do you ask that question?
Well, because I thought this was an excellent opportunity to be playing that in their minds. You know, what engineering, so you try this, you make a prototype, you test it, you refine it, you replicate it. In other words, that cycle, which is part of our science curriculum, you know, there's nothing in there about has to be able to design a roller coaster, but you better know engineering design.
Exactly.
And this was, I thought, super.
Well, and that's just it. And I think this is one of the things that we're going to struggle with. how do we put that? It's like you said, you talked about it's something they're familiar with. How do we bring that into other kinds of learning where it's like, oh, I'm really struggling to make this something we're familiar with? And that's going to be sort of the ending task that you'll be working on. You'll all be given a science scenario and thinking about how do we make that real to them in some way. Anybody else? Yeah.
I was just going to build upon what you were saying. We teach the curriculum to our kindergartners at our school, and when we introduce engineering, we read the engineering book, and it talks about that engineers build roller coasters and all the different things that engineers do to get them excited about it, and then we start at using similar materials in kindergarten to build ramps and talk about friction and stopping a marble. So this is just showing the KnowAtom curriculum that builds upon the foundation that we're teaching. So they have seen it before, maybe not as in-depth. Of course, we're not using that vocabulary per se, but we are starting it at 5 and 6 years old in our classrooms.
And this is where, again, I think it's either the first or one of the readings that I'm going to give you sort of talks about that, where getting the big picture and then backing into the smaller picture. Another way of really, that's what you said, just capturing their interest, and then they'll bring that along with them. Anybody else? I don't want to skip anybody. It was something that we did not talk about. Okay, we're going to go on to the next video. Now, this is a very quick one, and this is just to give you a little bit of background because it's hard to see. They are doing mineral testing, and they're given a mystery mineral, and they've learned about the Mohs scale, they've learned about what to do, and they're visiting 8 different stations, and at each station they're doing a test, and then at the end they have to go back to their book, and their book has pages that they have to sort through to try to identify which mineral have we got. So this is a little clip, again, that I just pulled out my cell phone and I started to record because it was reminding me of some of what I saw in roller coasters. And minerals, not quite as exciting, not quite as relatable, or so I thought.
Yeah. Wait, this is your job. You got it. This looks like. Is it silky? Does it look silky? It looks like multi like glass.
So there again, it was fun to video because I was really quite pleased at how, first of all, how on task they were. So if you would just take a minute to talk at your table, what are you seeing there? Are you seeing the same? Are you seeing different things? What are you seeing that should cause them to be engrossed in that, on task? I'm not going to say the other words because those are some of the, I don't want to give away some of the things. So take just 2 minutes in your table groups to turn and talk. Yeah, not nearly as exciting. Oh, you're looking at it.
Well, yes, but I was just, because I also teach 5th grade.
Yes.
And so I was showing her because she teaches 3rd grade.
Yes, yes.
But, yes, we did roller coasters last year too, and I think the big element in all of it is that mystery piece of like, what is it? So I just
good. Please bring that up.
Okay.
Please bring that up.
Okay.
That
Right.
solution.
Yeah.
Because when I first started doing this, I was just kind of wah-wah.
Yeah.
And first of all, what dazzled me was they're so good.
Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity for messing up.
Yeah.
And they're like you know, and one of the things that I'll say is, you know, if there's already people there, go to another station, and to see people just, you know, flying around from station to station, it's like, dang. So it's such a good thing to reflect on.
For elementary age students in this setting, I think I'm taking some of the joy away by trying to control and the behavior and don't mess with the stuff, just do what I ask, and there's all this, like, just to keep the behavior at bay, I end up stealing the joy because...
Would you mind saying just what you're saying?
I don't know, just because...
I think you can frame it not as you, but you can say,
I'm
like,
very
there's
self-critical, so
I think you can say it's like there's an
But
inclination as a teacher to, like,
maybe take
have
control
control
of the
and,
environment to
like,
keep things going.
Because you're so right. I mean, that's why I'm so passionate, because I did the same thing. And I'm thinking MCAS scores, and I'm thinking, yes, yes, please.
If it fits in the conversation, I'll volunteer.
It's going to, because I'm just going to ask for share-outs, and it would be great if you guys, it must. All right, I'm going to ask you to come on back in 3 and 2 and 1. All right, who would like to share out? I'm looking at you guys over there, because I had such a great conversation about something that I think we can all relate to.
So we were just talking about being in this classroom environment where you're having them so engaged, and they have all these great materials to engage with. And the experiments are great. They're wonderful explorations. But I think as teachers, it can sometimes feel less joyful because there's a tendency to want to control the environment. Are they going to get out of hand, or all the things that we think of as teachers? And so, my reason for entering the room was bring in the joy. Let's go with some joy, but there's that balance. How do we also keep the environment controlled and not out of hand? So there's a balance there. There's a line somewhere.
Can you just say, would you mind saying, when you said to me, this was what really captured me, you're sometimes guilty of doing what?
I don't want to steal the joy from the moment because I don't, but in my trying to keep the behavior.
Yep.
And to keep, let's use the items appropriately, and like, is that statement, although totally fine for a teacher to say, but is that stealing the joy from the moment?
Yes, yes. And I'm so thrilled. No,
that's what I thought you were saying.
No, I'm actually saying yes, yes, and yes. I hear that because I think that's I love that came out, because I hadn't really articulated that when I thought about that. But I think that is it so often, that fear of losing control. And yes, I was often guilty. I'm sucking the joy right out of this. Am I meeting the objective? Am I finishing on time? Because I never finish anything on time, and hopefully I'll finish this on time. But I think that's such a powerful statement that I want us to think about, because I haven't necessarily, it was like, oh, great, how are we going to bring joy? It's always something that we have to think about. How can I do this? Or at least, how can I not do this? Thank you. Anybody else want to add on?
Did you model how to do the centers before you did them?
No, I did not. I did not. Because again, I'm getting a little bit better at releasing independence, because I think that first, the endless talking, that was one of the things that I really told myself, stop. Give them as much information as they need and move on. So there were parameters. I showed, here are the stations, here's what you do, but there are also cards at each station that explain, because they're not going to listen to me. That's been one of my greatest learnings. They're not going to listen to you. Save your time. What did you say?
They're looking at what they're going to be doing.
Absolutely. Which really, should be what they're doing? They get to see me all the time.
I think they should be listening to me, but
Yes, exactly, but what are they actually doing? So we may as well capitalize on that. Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else?
Well, the other thing we were talking about too is just that for them, there's this element of mystery to
Yes.
all of these projects. Like with the roller coasters, they don't know what their marble's going to do. They can't wait to try it again. Is it going to make it through the curve or not? And with the minerals, they don't know. Is it going to conduct the current? Is it not? Who knows? We have to test them, and that's what sort of keeps them going and keeping them engaged. Is this sense of mystery for them?
Yes.
Like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I totally want to find out. And I think that, especially for fifth graders, they do put themselves in this role of like, yes, now I am a scientist and I am doing this thing, and that's really cool that I get to try it out. And not knowing what the outcome is going to be is that huge motivating, joyful factor for them.
And I think I like that you brought up that point, because that's another one of those things that I always have to stop myself from giving too much information and letting them figure it out, letting them fail, letting them learn what they're going to learn, and I can play with that later if I need to. Yep.
I think it also, kids now play video games, and you can't go to the next level until you get it right. So they're used to feedback of like, oh, that was wrong. And I had a kid one time tell me during the park testing, oh, I answered 14 questions and I got them all right. And I was like, what on earth made him think he got them? Oh, it let me go to the next question.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
The question that I have on this one is the joyful just pervasive? You had groups of like 4, and as a teacher, I always wonder when you've got, 6 groups of 4 or something working around at different stations, is the joyfulness and participation pervasive among all of them, or are certain individuals taking control of the group and a couple riding on coattails, and then how does one assess the success of that process and that involvement or lack of involvement?
That's a great question, and that's one of the reasons why I grabbed my cell phone to because in that and the roller coasters, yes, everybody was deeply involved because they had to be, and you hear the discussions. It doesn't always happen like that. Absolutely not. But I think the more we are able to leave them alone, the more we're able to practice things like Socratic Seminar, where they learn how to communicate with each other, where they learn how to build each other up, add on to each other, and it becomes common. We've all got to figure this out, because one of the things that excited me, you saw the 2 boys at the window looking at the rock, and all of a sudden they were both having comments. It wasn't just one kid looking up while the other one just watched and took notes. So no, not 100% of the time, but more and more I'm finding as I examine these things and learn to just step back, where I might have to walk around and do the thing, well, what do you think about it? The person that's sitting back and being quiet. But having them in smaller groups at least is one way to bring forth more of that. Yes?
On that note, I was thinking a lot about, we're talking in the beginning of today about how we want, kids to learn skills that are going to help them in jobs. And I feel like this actually probably, if I'm putting myself in there, it would make you realize, do I need to be more assertive, like some children? So working on those, those SEL skills, really, like those social emotional skills, I feel like was huge, because even if they're not to the point where they are working on that skill, at least they're noticing, ooh, I do need to work on my assertiveness in a group. I do need to let go of control in a group. So it's letting them get to there rather than, I thought it was great.
Well, and I think one of the things about when you can get your class to a certain point and you're releasing me, and if I'm lucky enough to have another person in the room, that I can be walking around doing that gentle push, gentle prod, gentle, what do you think about it? Good. Anybody else? All right, moving on, Ashley. I think you'll have to go back. There we go.
Okay, is this
Yep.
the one that you want?
Yeah, so now we're going on to, we did that, so now we're going to go on to brain rules. There we go. Good job. All right, so I have a couple of different readings. So this book, this person, he should pay me royalties. Anybody ever heard of this book? It's called Brain Rules by John Medina. It is amazing. If you don't have it, get it. I got it. I had left teaching and I came back to teaching about 15 years ago. And myself and a couple of other brand new teachers got this book and had a little book club. It really transformed my teaching. It's rules for how the brain thinks. And so you're going to be doing 2 different readings on this. And the first one, this is Brain Rules 12 that I'm starting with. And it's called We Are Powerful and Natural Explorers. So I'm going to be asking you to think about how does this connect to the video so we can kind of keep adding to our knowledge of what are the things that I can hang on to, what are the things that I can control when I'm lesson planning, when I'm using my curriculum. So if I could have my buddies at this group just pass out. I think I have enough, but we might have to do a little bit of sharing.
I'll go to the back.
Okay, great. Oh, you have to make sure you get one too. You have to make sure you get one of these too. Mine is over there on Eileen's table.
Okay.
And you're such a good assistant. You are such. Okay, so this one, I have to end at noon. So we start about 10:30,
Yeah, it's
11:30.
11:10.
Perfect.
So you have until noon, okay.
Yep. How we doing on numbers?
Perfect there, right?
You are good. Good job.
Yeah, it's so stinking hot in here.
I know. Oh, where they open the doors there.
I know, it's
Didn't
warm.
have, such an amazing presentation. This wouldn't be a problem. I know. I blame you.
I almost, my heart almost stopped when I walked in here because last year was like, saying it was like a third, this was in 3 different. And so we had, I had maybe like 25 people, which was great. But it was like, oh God, I am not prepared for.
How are we doing?
So, guys, will you raise your hand if you still need one? My little elves are running around.
Did we get any? Okay. So
Did you guys get them?
Yeah, so I'll read. Sure.
Okay. Okay, that'd be awesome if you could. It's just 1 page. That's all it is. Just one. Oh, that one probably goes. Oh, that's one's. Those are the old. That's the second reading. Okay.
We'll share.
Okay. So if you guys could, guys, if you could share, and it's just 1 page, just the back of this. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Read through that, and then we will chat. Do you guys have some for your tables?
Yeah, we can share.
Oh, I could give you guys the actual book. What?
That's true.
Let me give you that.
Yes, and Tommy had one with the speed read.
You guys are doing lesson 12 first. Exploration, 243, I think. You'll also love this in terms of raising Wyatt. It's So it's this one, but it's like all this stuff that's so great.
Oh.
What does this start with? I was stunned. I feel like it's 254. Yeah, there we go. So it's just this, I think, down to the bottom. Oh. I love that words. My kids always walk around now, because at the beginning of every unit, I'll say, just flip through the book and say what you're curious about. And now I love hearing them say all the time, this makes me curious. And I'm like, oh,
Good word.
it's such a good word, and I love like the opening talk when I felt like it aligned so much. It was like, yes, 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 that's what I'm going to talk about.
I use FOSS right now.
Oh, I used to use FOSS in Seattle.
KnowAtom. We use FOSS in one of the first grade. And one of the first lessons it's in the program is how to be a scientist. So we go over that. And we have, FOSS has a lot of experiments in it, which are great. But whenever I'm doing that, they're in groups. I usually do pairs in first grade. I always remind them what is a good scientist to listening to someone else using materials appropriately. So to me, that's my key phrase. Remember, you're a scientist.
Yes.
And if you're not going to be a good scientist, then that's a choice you're making not to participate. Usually doesn't get that far because they love science.
Yes. But I think those are good language, because I often say, think like a scientist, or use vocabulary, because we do this investigation with tablets that fizz in the water, and we call them effervescent tablets. And whenever the kids, like during Socratic seminar, they'll say fizzy tablets, what's the scientific word? So anything. So I think that's that same thing as start creating that mindset with helping them, again, having a different mindset about themselves, which is amazing.
How often do you do your activities in KnowAtom? Do you follow a set schedule, or do you go
Yes,
through the reading
yes.
notes?
So what KnowAtom is a very set structure. So we first do the reading, and then because my kids are all English learners, I do a graphic organizer that goes along with the reading. So day 1 we do the reading, day 2 we do the second read, and they answer the questions with their groups.
For their graphic organizer, like we do closed notes too, or we do, depending on the level of reading.
They have, it's usually 10 to 15 questions that will bring them back into the book. And then after that we do Socratic seminar. And then
When you do your Socratic seminar, see, I'm a 5th grade co-teacher, so I'm in science. When you do Socratic seminar, are they doing it on the Chromebooks that way, or are they?
I don't do it that way just because towards the end of the year I do that, but I think the discourse is so important. So I do, the inner circle is talking. The outer circle is doing a reflective sheet. So what they're doing is they've got an identified partner, and so they're noting, did my partner just add on to someone's comment? Did my partner just assist a peer? Did my partner defend something?
And then do they get to?
Then they switch, yes. And so then they switch, and then they share out reflections at the end.
Because I'm thinking too that to build the curiosity and the excitement, they have to know it's coming on a certain time.
Exactly, exactly. Those are good.
To get you through the reader and the vocabulary.
Will you bring that up? Because again, I think that's such an important thing, because on my board every week I have, here's what's happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so that Holy Grail is there, and also keep that sense of urgency that knows, oh, I better get this graphic organized. I need to be ready for seminar. All right, everyone. Come on back in 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. So what are we thinking about that? How does that relate to the video? Your brain, we are powerful and natural explorers. What do we think about what we read, and how can we connect that to what we teach?
Well, it said that, you know, it's a straight up reward system that it brings them joy naturally. So when they were doing the tests and finding answers, they were feeling joy just from doing that themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And isn't that a wonderful thing? That's why I love this book. It like validates those things that we sort of know, but then it's, no, that's true. That is literally how the brain is working. Who else? Mm-hmm.
I find curiosity is only the first step. We're naturally wired for curiosity. But if you go back to hunter-gatherer times and a child asked a question, they would probably get a very specific answer from their parent or an adult. There was no exploration. The way you kill a caribou is this way. Follow the rules.
And don't ask me anything about it. Just
Right. Don't you do. I'm going to give you the answer. And teaching for a long time, I think, was that way. And so somewhere I've read, and don't ask me the details, by 4th grade, children are beginning to be less curious. They are asking fewer questions, even though Einstein said the most important thing is to ask questions. Children are less and less curious because there is no exploration. There are simply answers.
Yep.
And so to me, it's taking the curiosity and developing in some way a sense of self-efficacy, of agency. We have a sign in my classroom that says, I don't know, ... yet, but I think that I can find out if I use my strategies, my skills,
Good.
in other words, do research, that they are able to work at some of their own. And then we think they get a little dopamine hit of feel-good neurochemicals. And now it appears that even when you have the question, the curious question, and you say, I think I can get the answer, you get a little bit of dopamine if you are able to get the answer, some from adults, some from your own work. You get another hit of dopamine, and it's a natural feel.
Right, and it goes back to that, somebody brought that up earlier, that mystery. Oh, I got to solve that mystery. I am driven to solve that mystery. And I think going back to what this table talked about earlier is if we could just stop sucking the joy out of the classroom and, you know, back off for a minute. So, yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, we're going to go into our second, I love this title so much. This is rule number 6. It should be rule number 1. We don't pay attention to boring things. Enough said. So this is a little bit of a longer reading. It's a few pages. And what I want you to think about this, he gives a great example. This is such a good example. I'm pretty old, so I remember what he's talking about. Some of you may not, but he describes it pretty well about an advertisement that went on early on and how striking it was for some very distinct reasons. So I'm going to ask you to read that, and then we're going to move into you're going to be taking some actual science investigations and trying to, how can we infuse some of the joy, the interest? So I'm going to have my helpers again pass out. And again, you might have to do a little bit of sharing on this. This is about 1.5 pages. Pass them out. Thank you so much. Ashley, you get your own. Wow. Yep. Thank you so much for doing this. This would have been so hard to run back and yeah,
it's a waste of time.
Because again, it didn't matter in the tiny room, but in this it was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Where do you teach science? And what grade? Where do you teach science and what grade?
Third grade.
Third grade.
Yeah.
Where?
North Reading. But I'm very much involved with these kinds of things.
Yeah.
That curiosity is great, but somehow there has to be directed curiosity too.
Yes.
Because otherwise they're just going to be curious
Oh,
about kid stuff.
shiny object. Yeah, yeah, exactly,
So it's
exactly.
I love this book.
Do you know this book? Oh,
I
it changed because I wasn't a scientist. I didn't, you know, I barely knew science, and like all of a sudden being able to like sort of have every teacher thought I've ever had kind of confirm like in my gut, yes, 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 yes. You know, it's like when our lead-off speaker, you know, just talking about what are we doing? You know, it's like we're not preparing them for next steps.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and the other thing is about these challenges things, they've got to be just a little bit beyond where they're at. You ask someone about paradigms and, you know, algorithms. Boring, I don't understand it, irrelevant. It's got to be just a little bit beyond where they are, that they can understand it and have a chance.
Exactly.
If they have no chance, forget it.
That's a very good point. That's a very good. When you read that, yes, think about that. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to give you about 8 minutes, and then we'll talk about that before you get your chance to show.
How many minutes do they have for this exercise?
8. They just started.
Can you take 2 minutes and just tell us what's going on?
In this, yes. I'm sorry, and I keep forgetting to repeat the questions.
Just gonna fix the tape here on you. Don't mind. Barry, can you hold this? Yes. Thank you. Give a sec.
I've been saying that all day.
Roll to the audio.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Okay, good.
Good. Can you just start by telling us your name, what you teach, and where you teach?
My name is Judy Higgins, and I teach science at Leahy School in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
What grade?
5th grade science.
And what can you tell us about this session?
So this session is called Bringing Joy to the Classroom, and it stemmed from someone from the district had asked if they could come and make a video of a science class doing something cool. So they came in and they did a videotape of my kids engineering roller coasters, and it was amazing to me to watch the video, to step outside of my classroom and watch the video, because it gave me goosebumps. The kids were so excited, they were so engaged, they were so smart. And as a teacher, like, they're using the vocabulary correctly, and they're persevering through failure after failure. They're working as a team, they're listening to each other. And I kept re-looking at the video, looking for, what is this? What can I capture from this video and put into any other class I teach? So some of the things I came up with was their ability to be independent, to take risks, because they took a lot of risks. They literally thought of these marbles as people, and if the marble falls off, the people die. And I heard connections to their lives. There's a great moment where one of the girls said, I go on roller coasters and I had no idea there were so many forces involved. And that's incredible, hearing, you know, 10 and 11-year-old kids relate scientific concepts to their lives. So when I was asked to present, this was the first thing I thought about. And then, so I thought, how can I sort of capture, what can we bring out of this? What can we do with any science lesson? So what they're doing now, they're reading a couple of excerpts from one of my favorite books called Brain Rules by John Medina. And he talks about how the brain actually works. So the first reading they did was, we are natural explorers. So letting kids be, letting them explore. And what they're reading right now is that we don't pay attention to boring things. So it's some examples that they talked about of how do you generate the excitement, and then you can back up and teach the details later, but you've got to capture their information. You know, it's like when the kids know, we're building roller coasters. Okay, so now you got to back up and learn something so you'll know how to do this. So you've got that big thing at the end, that big wow, when at the beginning I show them a video of roller coasters and they say, okay, we gotta learn so we can do this.
What are some of the things you hope that the attendees in this session will take back to their classrooms?
What I hope they will do, they're actually going to be doing a lesson in just a minute where I've given them a couple of different lessons. So each 4 or 5 people will look at a lesson. What can they take from, and I purposely picked some kind of dry lessons that kids wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I know a lot about this. How can we infuse some of the strategies that we can pull out and dip into those lessons to help them be, oh, I see this. I see how this is working.
Wow, that's great.
I got a question. Based on the response, like this is a packed room, right? How does it feel to be a part of this and the excitement around, kind of changing the way people teach and learn?
It's incredible. It is absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. It's amazing. It is the most amazing thing. I love this curriculum, and I taught in Seattle. I taught science, and I had a different curriculum, and it was not engaging. And to look at the school where I teach, very high poverty, tremendous amount of behavior issues. Most kids, English is not their first language. We have kids who come directly from other places, so they have zero English. And to look at the excitement and to think about these kids, they feel good. They feel successful. They feel like, I can do this. So this is amazing to me. Really, really amazing.
What would you say to a teacher that's that hasn't come to teach yet but is considering coming to teach?
I would say how it's hard. It's hard, but I will honestly say that you can make a difference. And if you make a difference with one kid, that will, the ripples will spread out. You will be able to make a difference. And it's incredibly gratifying. And I've never had more fun at a job than I have at this job. So that's what brings me back every day. It is a lot of fun to see kids that are so unengaged, have a lot of problems, and to see them looking the way they look when they're engineering roller coasters and the joy they feel when they're successful is really amazing.
And if you could describe the Teach Conference in one word, what word would it be?
Inspiring.
And do we have your permission to use this video for a KnowAtom video?
Yes, you do.
You.
Are we good?
That was great. Thank
All right,
you so much.
thank you. Sorry, that took longer than I thought. Is that yours or mine?
That's yours.
Okay, good. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not mine. But now I'm like, wait.
As they're like videotaping me, I'm like, I can't talk anymore. All righty, come on back. And 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. So much more responsive than my classrooms. So what do we think about this second reading? What can we take away from this second reading? How can we think about what can we put into our lessons? What can we do? What can we back away from doing with this last video? So what I'm going to have you do, just to give you a minute, turn and talk in your table group, and then choose somebody who will sort of speak out for what did we get from this in a nutshell. So I'm actually just going to give you a minute because I want to have time for us to do the last activity. So 1 minute, go. The next slide is
how will this inform our teaching?
yes.
That's right now.
Yes, so that's going to be our next task.
Okay, so
and
I should put it up yet.
okay, we're correct. So we're in good shape. So we'll have a discussion now, and it's 11:30. So we'll have a quick discussion. They'll have time to work on the task, and then. And I'll be so. Last year I did the first one, the first block, so it was so nice to be able to, like the. And then this one I was like, I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to pay attention. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what you should be focusing on because that is your focus. That's what's bringing you joy.
Exactly, exactly.
See, I learned something.
Okay, are you learning something?
I am.
Really?
And
Okay.
that book is awesome. I was like
Isn't
looking
it?
through some of the other ones. I'm like, this is very cool.
It's not just this. It's not just focused on teaching either.
Exactly.
Whole life stuff.
Exactly.
So relevant to teaching,
It's
but whole life stuff.
so relevant. And this book is fairly old. I mean, this was 15 years ago that I got it. And it just reminds me, like I loved our first speaker, that it was like,
He was great.
he was so good. That video made me cry about Yes We Can.
I was like, I'm gonna, yeah. Oh, I was smiling up.
It was so cute. The guy, when he was interviewing me, he kept telling the sound guy, no, go here, go there. And he'd say, can you go over there? And he'd go, yes, I can. It was so cute. All right, come on back. In 3 and 2 and 1. So we're going to get our last bits of information before we dive into last activity, which will be about 10 minutes for you to try to infuse some joy into these lessons that I'm going to give. So if I could have just one speaker from each table, just quickly, we're going to go back here, because I always feel like you guys in the corner get ignored, and start out with some of these way back table, and then we'll quickly go around. And just one hit that you got from this second reading that kind of wraps everything up.
Well, it's so logical.
Logical.
Logical in the sense that if it's boring, why would you pay attention to it? And if it doesn't hit those neurons in the first place, you're just going to tune out anyway.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous how simple it is.
Exactly. And how are we going to let that inform our teaching? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, I only gave you that much to read because it sort of didn't make sense out of context, but you're absolutely right. That's sort of it. What about this table group?
Well, we said that basically without an overarching understanding of a topic, kids aren't going to be able to pick up on the details and make meaning out of them, so they have to have a sense of purpose in order to understand and be excited about what they're learning.
Understand and be excited. Yes, yes. Middle table group right here.
So we talked about a bunch of things, but I think one thing that, to use Linda's words, was like the anchor is first and the details are later.
Yes, yes. And that was such a good one for me to take away because I can get, where I suck the joy out of things, hung up on the details and think, well, wait a minute, why am I doing the vocabulary now where it's meaningless? And they'll get it later when they're excited. Did I get to you guys? Anybody?
Just how it has to be meaningful for them to be engaged. And like one of the things we talked about was like being in a logical way, making sense of it, having them understand the sequence.
Yeah, and meaningful too, where we get that back, that connection to, what about me? What does this have to do with me? Good. This table? Good. That, like, everybody looks at each other, oh, not it.
Well, we agreed that it was the gist. You had to understand what the general gist was.
The gist.
Apply those details and make them anchor to what you need to learn from.
Yep, yep, exactly. Wasn't that, I loved that, the advertisement clip. I mean, that's what advertisement does. You've got me, I don't know what this has to do with, but you've got my attention. This table group here?
Well, we connected it because been here so many years. It reminded me of backwards design. How you start
Yes.
with
Yes.
big idea, essential question. So
Yes.
Make you start backwards.
Yeah, sort of those things that we get taught, but I like being reminded of those things. How about this table?
Our table talked about using our lesson to focus on the main idea and then using their exploration time for them to learn the details on that foundation.
Yes, yes. And final?
Same thing, when the time crunch is on, the main thing is get the gist of whatever it is.
Get the gist. And I think, you know, we have precious little time to teach. I have an hour to teach science, and there's a lot I have to say. So Eileen was just saying, just get the gist. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do now, and we're going to, there are a series of, I think there's a third, a fourth, and 2 fifth grade explorations. So if you guys could just give 2 to each table, choose whichever one you want. And I kind of went for things that were a little bit dry. So I want you to look at these lessons and say, where would we begin to put all of this into place? How can we infuse this with some life, some connection to me, so we can get that joyful learning going on? So again, I don't know what I would do without my assistants. Take whatever you want. They'll give 2 to a table, and then I'll just give you about 8 minutes. Yes. You guys are rock stars.
So do we ask them which ones? Or
Nope,
no?
nope,
Yes,
because it
okay.
doesn't really matter. I'll give you each a chunk, and those are all the same ones. So you just do one, and then actually I'll give you another chunk. So just 2 to a table.
Is it putting our thoughts into action?
Yeah, I'm going to skip that. We don't have time, as always. I've gone
so this
over.
is the right
so
slide
this
right
is,
now.
yep,
Okay.
this is the task, and they're going to have 0 time to do the task, which is fine with me.
So wait, is this for, am
Give
I passing this out?
yeah, go down to that table. Give 1 per, go to the tables that don't have
these are all the
anything.
same, right?
Yep. Yes, that's a great idea. Absolutely. Do either one of you guys know when they want me to end? I know they said I could go a little bit over, but I don't know how much. Because I can end any time between now and 10 minutes from now.
You're still going?
Okay.
11:45 was supposed to be the wrap-up?
11:45 was the time, so she told me 5-10 minutes.
I
Is
think
that
you do your
okay?
thing.
Yeah, I say you
Okay,
probably
well,
have 5.
eventually they're going to get them. The natives will get restless. They're going to get tired of me and want to come
Well,
out for
after
lunch.
this is lunch, and that goes for an hour, so it's
I know.
not like a hard.
I know, but they're like kids. They're going to be done pretty soon. I know that.
Yeah,
I
you're
know.
more experienced at this than us.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the pictures will help them.
And then if you guys are going to do that, will you shout out? Because I think this tends to, we've heard a lot from the older grades, so it'd be so cool to get some younger grade perspective. So you guys, you're only going to have about like 3 minutes to do this. So whatever you have. You remember that one, Eileen.
Just talk about that one.
Yeah.
Will you share that? So that's that's again, and that's exactly what we're talking about. But I mean, that's exactly it. Is just getting that, make it relevant to them. Make it.
Right, because then this leads to the building a 5-story skyscraper.
Which is so.
Get them, like how we did the cards, the building, like they have to have that understanding to know, because then they start to think that the building twisting is like, I did it.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see any buildings that are twisted?
Yeah.
I really hope not, because that could be a big problem.
Yes.
However, in my classroom, where the shelf was too hard, that little nook that you like to stick your hats and gloves in,
Do we have something good to say about the little kiddos?
Not yet.
Something?
We're working on the lesson.
Okay, good.
Looking at this one.
Good.
I don't know if you know it. It's the sun and shade one. You might not know it because it's
No.
okay, but it's part of the weather unit.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I was just saying that.
Okay, so that's cool. So I'm going to call on you guys, and then Polino's got something to say about one of those lessons, and then we're wrapping it up because it's time for lunch. Time for lunch.
All right, we're on it, Judy. We're on it.
Thank you. All right, so I have 2 tables I'm going to focus on. We'll do our quick hits, and then we're done. And keep this, because I'm sick of it right now, because I've read it so much. I just bought myself a new copy, so keep it as long as, but I think you'll have a blast thinking about Wyatt. That is so much fun.
Oh yeah, that was yours.
That's, yeah, the main. All right, come on back in 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. So what we are going to do now, since lunch is the next step, and we're just about done, I've asked 2 different people to share out a lesson and their thoughts about ways that we could infuse a little connection and therefore joy into the lesson. And then if there's anybody else that is wanting to share out, we'll go for it. And then you are free to lunch. I'm going to ask this table group to start first.
So we had the 3rd grade forces and materials investigation where the students are learning compression, tension, bending. They first use clay. So a way to infuse joy into this is have the kids actually do that movement. So learning about compression, learning about tension, a rubber band or a piece of string, bending, just actually bending, shear, ripping a piece of paper, super highly engaging for kids, and then twisting and torsion. And especially with this lesson, the investigation with the clay leads them to building a 5-story skyscraper. So super important that they understand those vocabulary words and the interaction. So more of that acting out to help them to know that when they build their 5-story skyscraper and it twists, that's not how you want a building, and a building shouldn't look like that. And I was explaining to the group in my closet where the bookshelf is too heavy and the wood comes down, and they like to stick their papers and gloves and hats in that little space, that we had to put a support there because it was too heavy. So lots of just small things to help make that lesson more engaging with the actions of forces.
And those are, again, perfect examples of where we're going with this. That's a very exciting place we're going, so now we're going to back up and making it meaningful to them. And my other table group, who kindly, they actually wanted to get a lesson for the lower grades up on their computer, so they're going to share out some ways that they will infuse joy into their investigation.
The sun and shade experiment is how you close Unit 1 in kindergarten, and it talks a lot about weather and materials and problem solving and all that kinds of stuff. So the sun and shade experiment question is, But it's also to introduce it in a way that is age appropriate, but maybe relates to them in some way, shape, or form by showing, a stuffed animal in the shade and showing it in the sun, or showing a person in the shade in the sun. Which person is cooler, or let's figure it out. Let's ask that why. You can go to the table. I need you to give me the why, and let them go and let them fly and see what they come up with.
Let them fly. I also liked that such a small thing that you said, but so powerful and connects right back to what our opening speaker said. Maybe they don't think they need tinfoil. That's incredible. That is such powerful ownership and freedom that makes no sense to me that I would use tinfoil or elastics or whatever it is. So I think that's such a powerful, powerful place to start. And you're starting them at such a young age to how much are we honoring them when we say we respect that? You have possibly things that I have not thought about. Anybody else before we close out? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's hot in here. It's crowded in here. I thank you so much for your time and attention.